And what will happen is, an older male will take him under their wing, be their apprentice, and guide him along. And I just, watching this happen is just incredible to see how sophisticated they are, and to see how many human-like qualities they have. And to continue the ivory trade and continue to promote poaching in South Africa and the rest of Africa would prove disastrous for the elephants. And many skeptics of this bill may put into question how our small state of Massachusetts can come close to saving the lives of elephants. But this bill would put an end to the facilitation of ivory trade that would close loopholes and trade bans. And there's much more that needs to be done to save the lives of elephants, but this trade ban is a great first step in the preservation of the elephants. I cannot imagine a world where my children's children, do not know what it is like to live in a world with elephants. I hope that you will support H1275 and take a stand against the horrible act of ivory trade. And my little brother has some pictures to show you that we talk about elephants in Africa. Very close.
Hi, my name is Talia and I'm a freshman at Harvard High School. When I was thinking of what I wanted to say while testifying for the bill on H1275, I was reminded of an afternoon. I was sitting by a watering hole right outside our camp. All of a sudden, I was disturbed by the tremble of majority creatures. It was then that I saw them. No less than 30 elephants were in front of me, readily waiting to cool off. The adults went first, and then the children. The intelligence of an elephant is incredible. Their beauty overwhelms me. Elephants of all ages were frolicking in the watering hole in an attempt to cool off from the hot sun of the afternoon. I must admit that I was shocked, having never experienced anything of the sort. In this day and age, most people would whip out their smartphones, snapping photos, and eagerly posting them to one or another social media website. I, however, did not have my phone at the moment and was able to live in the moment and enjoy the beauty of the elephant. The way I think of it is that if I got to experience the majesties of Africa's giants, watch it for the next generation and the one after that, to be ignorant of the problem at hand is not pleasurable. So many innocent creatures are being killed for what? Trinkets that will soon be left in a box in your attic? Passing this bill means that ivory trade is banned in Massachusetts, so no old or new ivory can be traded. When poachers in Africa kill elephants for their tusks, they are then passed to people who will make replicas of ivory carvings. These carvings are incorporated into the trade system, disguised as antique pieces. One good piece of ivory no longer represents prestige, so why should thousands of elephants be killed every year? It is up to our state legislature to ban the trade of ivory and act as an example to other states in our country. We need to stop the murdering of elephants so the next generation of the world can appreciate their beauty as I have. Please support H1275 to save the elephants. Thank you.
Anything to add? You did a great job. Thank you both. Any questions? You all? Yeah.
late July, we had a couple from two Watertowns who got registered motor vehicle. They decided to take their French bulldog along. They left the dog in a hot car, black car on black asphalt for what they said was half an hour. As any reasonable person would have expected, that dog overheated pretty quickly and was unresponsive when they returned to their car. The dog was rushed to the hospital and unable to resuscitate. We did file charges against this couple. They chose a bench trial and they were found not guilty because the judge felt they did not intend to harm their dog. So we need another means to battle this problem. I have an offender in Watertown, I'm a habitual offender, and if I was able to find him back when I first met him in 2011, we'd probably have to do it later. But in reality, if I was able to find him back then, I'm quite sure that the activity would cease and I would not be still seeing him today. As 2 summers ago, I was standing in that parking lot, the same parking lot where that French bulldog died. Parking lot that I've been to way too many times since that animal died, and I was there for the same reason. I had a small dog in the car, it was 90 plus degrees, 100 plus inside the car, I could not locate that mirror. I found myself lingering by that car as that dog panted excessively, and I had a moment. I said to myself, Karen, leave that dog in the car and let it continue to suffer until in charge of you with animal cruelty. As animal control officers, one of our primary functions and concerns is animal welfare. Yet we're put into these predicaments where we have to make a decision when we see an animal overheating in a car. We take that animal out, we relieve it of its suffering, pull it down, get it into air conditioning, which is the humane option, but not necessarily legal. Or do we leave that animal in the car, let it suffer, which may be legal but not at all humane. And we don't really want these options. We don't want to put these predicaments. God forbid we wait a little bit too long and that animal dies while we're standing by. Not only number one, we're also going to probably lose our jobs. And we don't want to we just need the power to make a decision that is both legal and humane.
I'm going to give you 1 minute to testify, because honestly, we can't have people out there deciding who's going to testify.
Okay.
The fact that you're an animal control officer and you deal with her, I'm going to let you do that, but that's absolutely not the way this hearing is run. So you can have 1 minute to testify.
And I'll give you copies of the position statements, and the Animal Control Association does support the bill. We encourage a $500 fine the first time it should not be repeated instead of the stepped-up system. And they also support House Bill 1220, making changes to also in the committee that formed last year about seizing animals and the bond bill for owners and holding it.
Thank you. Any questions?
So if I understand correctly, if you were to come up to a car that a dog was in, you couldn't open the door, and you didn't allow you to do that to get the dog. You would buy it.
We pretty much are required to wait until that animal tires. It can happen very quickly, so deciding when that moment is, we would have to get a police officer.
The private citizens, they're all different people.
I don't think there's a law that allows citizens to do that. All we need to do is
There is a point to express at this point. Our law can. Brian Kearney and Jerome Murphy.
Chairman, I'm Jerome Murphy. I'm the treasurer of the Stanley Sons with Stanley Communicators on Boylston Street. And I'm here to speak, asking for an amendment to H 1275 for musical instruments because the bill as written would prevent the transfer or sale of any old piano, violin, guitar that contains small amounts of value. Now, Stanley Sons, who we represent, stopped using American Built pianos in 1988 prior to the CITPS treaty. I believe it stopped in Germany a few years later. And the ivory that exists is old ivory. It's pretty distinctly so. Samples will be show. Every piano tuner keeps old ivory that he has salvaged from pianos that have gone to the dump in order to repair new piano, repair other pianos that keep it going. If a piano that is 75 years old is missing a couple of ivories, we would not be able to replace them for plastic. And that piano may not be worth $1,500 it takes to recover the keyboard of the plastic. And so that you lose a piano that would otherwise be quite usable for another generation of kids studying piano music. We want to have as few impediments to the study of music as possible. So we would ask for an exemption. I've spoken to my rep, Kay Khan, and I'll speak to the sponsor, Ms. Ehrlich, next week about this. Kay is likely very interested in Philharmonic orchestras. And she's somewhat supportive of this. I think she's very supportive. It's a huge industry. There are about 300 piano technicians around the state who make a living full-time as piano technicians. Each one of them has a couple of cigar boxes full of ivory that they have just to color match and size match repairs of those pianos. So to keep that industry going, keep those people alive, there's probably 100,000 pianos, or 200,000 pianos that are taken care of by those 800 piano technicians that are out there. So each has about 800 pianos that take care of a year. And we just like to have, that's a much bigger dimension of the problem than I think anybody ever thought. It's a big industry. Maybe 50,000 pianos still have ivory. They were only used since the 1950s on the very high-end pianos. Prior to that, prior to the invention of good plastics, almost all pianos were used for that, native ivory, so prior to the 1930s. And there's still plenty of those out in use, and we'd like to keep them out. For orchestras traveling, it's an incredible burden when they keep bringing instruments across state lines. So, thank you.
Chairman Hernandez, members of the committee, thank you for the time to testify for the record. My name is Ryan Kearney, I'm General Counsel of the Retail Association. We're a trade association that represents 4,000 member businesses, including Mr. Murphy, who's also the chairman of the board. Included in that 4,000 member role is also jewelry dealers, furniture dealers, musical instrument dealers, such as Jerry, that deal in antique goods. And we would just ask that if the committee were to take critical action on this legislation, that they would consider adding an amendment that would exclude from the prohibition of ivory, specifically the sale of antique items that will include ivory.
Is the exemption that broad, or is there language that could be suggested to purchase or after?
We do not have any language drafted, but we'd like to see I assume one of them would go ahead and do that.
We have a draft language from our National Association of Music Teachers.
Okay. Great. Any other questions?
Mr. Murphy, I'm curious where you get your supply from to define what you have to use, or where you purchase them from the wholesaler?
We have these ivories we have scrounged and salvaged from pianos that were destroyed. They were afraid of throwing them. There is one industry called Blackstone Piano, one company that specializes in restoration of ivory keyboards. And they will, they've got a much bigger supply. I don't know where they get it. It's all believe he's getting them from the same source.
Oh, there's a source where it's commercial, sold, not just selling it for the final product, so you repair and sell. I can understand.
Could I buy some pieces of ivory
You buy pieces of ivory to use.
occasionally?
Yes. There's a source from which to do. Juliana Wang, Melody Anderson, and Marjorie.
Hi, my name is Melody Anderson. I'm an eighth grader at Gardner Auditorium School in Walton, Massachusetts. We're here speaking on behalf of the bill H-1257. And so we think there are many aspects to the illegal trade of ivory. It's very heartbreaking to learn of all the decreases in population of the Africans and the rhinoceros living there. And that's why we need to be their voice and speak up and help to get this bill passed.
Got a board a little closer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily. I am here today to
try to be brief. I did submit some written things, as I'm just going to skim over that. I'm a psychiatrist by trade and graduated from Harvard Medical School with BA in biology. I also am on the board of directors of the Boston Early Music Festival, and I collect antique flutes. Many of these contain ivory. That's how they made them back in the early 1800s. Some of them are entirely made of ivory. Some flutes have been exhibited at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and they are all in playable condition. Under the proposed law, I would not be able to buy any flutes in ivory that could be prosecuted, and I couldn't go out of the country and bring them back because that would be importation. The Early Music Festival, as you may or may not know, has every 2 years has a large festival and exhibition, and these are all original instruments, many containing ivory, many from European orchestras, and they have become reluctant to come to the United States. There was an incident in which, under federal law, the Budapest Festival Orchestra had all their bows seized, or a number of them, and so these instruments are very valuable. My godson, who is from Iceland, recently bought a very expensive violin bow from a prominent maker in Massachusetts, and who uses mastodon ivory and who has worked with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and he, again, would not be able to do this under the overly broad law. So I think there should be an exemption for musical instruments. In particular, I am also, very sympathetic to conservation issues. So I hope that there will be an accommodation for this legal ivory, which is sometimes hard to document. I just want to make one further comment. We've heard a lot about terrorist organizations. My understanding, and I've done drug work for the courts in Massachusetts, evaluating offenders. Laws against prohibition laws foster Al Capone, drug laws foster drug cartels. I think we're seeing the same behavior, and it's been documented this in the written material. Some of the same thing is more likely to happen with bans on ivory. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Hearing none, thank you. I think we have 3 more students who have signed up separately and asked to come together. Maggie, Ron, Aaron Crowley, and Iris Dahl. Is that the entire class that way this one?
Hi, my name is Caroline Crowley, and I'm an 8th grader at Devitt Middle School, and I'm here today to talk to you about why we should ban ivory from our state. Helpless, unprotected, and provided elephants are one of the most endangered species on our planet. Before poaching got out of hand in 2009, there were a total of 109,000 between that time and 5 years. They are being killed for no reason, and they have done no harm to us. People who are looking for money are choosing to kill harmless elephants for profit. The United States of America is the #2 importer of illegal ivory in the world, and Boston is the 4th highest seller of ivory in the country. This is definitely not something we should be proud of, and we can do our part to fix it. The Lord Resistance Army and Joseph Kony, who is one of Africa's most wanted terrorists, have killed thousands of civilians and have kidnapped children and forced them into the army. These forces used elephant ivory to finance their military operation and buy more weapons. Their poached ivory ends up all over the world. These are the type of people that poach. Why do we want to help these terrorists? There are people in Boston who unfortunately sell ivory just like the Lord's Resistance Army, causing Boston to be the 4th highest seller of ivory in the country. In 2006, Joseph Kony said, "It's only the ivory that will make the LRA strong." Is this something that the state of Massachusetts really wants to be associated with in the future? Do we want to be a part of something that could make the LRA strong? The ivory bill should be passed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Poaching is causing a lot of harm to the world, and Massachusetts can do its part to save one of the most endangered species in the world.
Hi, my name is Maggie McDonald, and I'm an 8th grader at McDermott Middle School. And all of us here today have pushed nerves aside to stand up for what we believe in. I believe that poaching is terrible and that selling ivory should be illegal. You are probably asking yourself why kids like us, especially in this generation, care about elephants to the point where we come here to speak to you. Well, elephants have been a giant part of my life. It's in a way inspirational to me how something that big can be so caring and so intelligent when it can be so destructive with ease. Tanzania's elephants population in 2009 was around 100,000. In 2014, it was around 43,000. I found this in the Guardian and the Tanzanian government. I remember in 7th grade when my teacher, Mr. Cochran, showed me a painting. It had nature and a big elephant painted on it. The most amazing thing about it was that an elephant painted it, which I'm pretty sure is a great example of their intelligence. But back on track, people are killing these intelligent creatures, animals, elephants, and if it continues, they can just simply disappear, causing future generations to only see elephants through their textbooks or just their pictures. But what's even worse is why they're killing them. People are killing elephants for their ivory. Once they kill the elephant, they cut off the tusk, ship it away, make bracelets, rings, and statues out of them. Also, what I think gets me the most is that all money gathered from selling these rings and bracelets go to support terrorist groups. For example, Joseph Kony is one of Africa's most wanted terrorists. He and his army have killed thousands of civilians. His forces use elephant ivory to finance military operations and get more weapons. Their poached ivory ends up all over the world. I found this through National Geographic and the U.S. State Department. And there's so many more examples. I can easily stand here and talk for hours and why it's so bad that I'm not the only one with a word to say. So I hope that you take into consideration on what I've said, and I hope that you will make poaching and selling ivory illegal. Thank you so much for your time.
My name is Vera Dole, and I'm also an 8th grader from McDermott Middle School. I'm here today to tell you guys that as Congress, you guys should ban the sale of ivory in Massachusetts for many reasons. The United States of America is the 2nd highest importer of illegal ivory in the world. Boston itself is the 4th highest seller of ivory in the country, and that's not something to be proud of. Since 2006 to 2013, the African elephant population dropped by 80,000. That's about 11,500 African elephants dying each year because of poaching. Not only is the sale of ivory causing elephants to become endangered, but it's also helping to fund terrorist groups. Terrorist armies like Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram get their money from the sale of ivory. Al-Shabaab gets 40% of the money they use to pay for their armies from selling ivory. We didn't import so much ivory from other countries that terrorist armies like this would become weaker. Considering that Boston is the 4th highest seller of ivory in the country, by banning the sale of ivory, we can make a real difference. With this ban on ivory, we can help save endangered elephants and stop from the terrorist armies. It really won't affect us that much if we ban the
since you're the last of the three, I want to again thank the teachers and all of you for coming down today. And you raised the question, you may be thinking, why here? No, actually, the question is how do we get more students engaged in the discussion? I had the opportunity to meet some high school students, and one of the communities I represent that way, who have written me 27 handwritten letters about the transgender discrimination bill. And much like this discussion, they could see the thing, the issue from one side, and we had a couple of hour discussion about some of the nuances of the bill, so twists and turns, and how other people might be affected, and how other people are thinking in opposition. You've heard some people testify here today, and dealers and others, about why some of the premises you're working on may be things that you should reconsider and think about, listen to, and come up with ideas about how to help them as well. Encourage you to have that dialogue and to share the writings you've done on this with us as a committee and with legislators. Because really advocating for the people who represent you, like they did, and the people who went with me, that's what we've heard by the local folks who represent you. So I encourage you to teach yourself, and you guys will all do the service as a great example of what we do in our organization. I'm going to allow you to testify. Those who agree with you and those who don't. Peter, Brewer. There you are.
I'm Peter Brewer. I'm in veterinary in Southwest Massachusetts. I also represent the Zoological Association of America, which is a trade organization that represents a number of small, privately and publicly funded zoos throughout the U.S. I want to thank Chairman Fernandez and the President of the Judiciary Committee for allowing me to speak today. And I'm against SB 1801 or any other legislation that would ban the elephant guide rule. And these are my reasons. Guides have been used by captive elephants for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And elephants have fairly poor eyesight, and their peripheral vision is weak, especially as they age. If you're standing below a 10-foot elephant, they just can't see that well. And a professional trainer with a guide tool can direct that animal, and I think it makes both the animal and the trainer feel more secure. I have seen professional trainers use guide tools. The newer modern ones are usually made of titanium and weigh about 10 ounces. And they can control these magnificent animals so that I, as a veterinarian, can obtain biological samples and administer medications. And to me, that is essential. Just this summer, I had to culture a fairly deep abscess on the foot of a large female Asian elephant. And the professional trainer presented the foot of that animal to me so I could get the sample. I did not have to anesthetize her or tranquilize her. And that's inherently dangerous, especially in older animals. The culture actually grew a mildly pathogenic species, so the trainer, with the use of the guide tool, could soak that elephant's foot for twice a day for an hour or two at a time. And we were able to get that infection under control avoiding using antibiotics, which can create a lot of possible resistance in bacteria species. And believe me, you have no idea how many antibiotic pills it takes to treat a 7,000-pound elephant patient. It's immense. I've been able to place catheters, draw blood, perform physical exams, and administer fluids because of the guide and the professional training. There are many laws in the books to punish anyone that uses a guide inappropriately. And I don't think that this valuable tool should be taken away. A recent episode of a sanctuary in California led to an elephant being euthanized because of improper foot care. That animal actually came from a zoo in Canada where the animal had been trained and foot care could be performed. The sanctuary implemented a protective contact position that the animals could not be handled, and the training lapsed. And that's just a lesson that you just can't turn these animals out of management. The protected contact issue and banning the guide will negatively affect many elephants in captivity. All of these animals that have trust with their trainers and keepers will now be isolated. That same sanctuary in California was close to those horrific wildfires that just happened recently, and smoke overtook the elephant compound. They could not move those animals because they could not be handled. Luckily, that fire was contained. I think sometimes some of the people that try and promote this legislation are not experts, and in my opinion, that position is wrong. I ask you to please not ban the guide and let professional keepers and handlers maintain the bond they have with these magnificent creatures.
Peter, I want to thank you for taking the time. And Peter and Stanley run Celtic Zoo, which is the largest. Is it not?
You say it's the largest.
Well, I think nobody's challenging you. We have
We celebrated our 50-year anniversary this year.
You did, and it was, people haven't been to a location in which animals are treated with great deal of respect. They often come out and see how you're handling for all the years. It's grown to tremendous job. Governor was always.
Yes, it's actually Governor Baker has restrictions to the office.
If he did, so they don't come along and we got the bad house and all the rest of it. I'm not sure if there are questions. Just in terms of the use of the law, is there any way that to measure whether in to what extent animals qualify for that?
Well, I think, the gentleman that brought the elephant strides to was a very good trainer. And I never saw him strike those elephants he used a hook in a bad manner at all. It's more of a guide tool. But I'm sure there's instances out there where it's used improperly.
But when it's used even proper, is it?
Well, it's like,
if it's used properly, it's just used as a guide.
it's a guide.
Is there an sensation that?
No, not at all. Not at all. I never saw any marks or any problems with that, with him using the guide.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Jen Samuel? Is that correct? Okay.
Children learn E is for elephant, not extinction. My name is Jen Samuel. I'm the president of an all-volunteer nonprofit, Elephants DC, dedicated to ending the ivory trade and advancing elephant well-being worldwide. Thank you for the opportunity to testify here today for the elephants, riders, and future generations. I flew into Boston from Philadelphia to advocate for elephants. They cannot be here in this room. They are here in spirit, gentle giants, guardians who have roamed the planet for more than 50 million years. Let's begin with what we know. Species are disappearing. This is a global crisis and immediate action is needed now. We need to ban ivory sales. We need to strengthen international protections against wildlife trafficking, and we need to preserve and protect ecosystems. We know in the 1800s there were approximately 20 million elephants in Africa. By 1910, that had been reduced by half. Today, it's estimated that there are less than 300,000 elephants left on the planet. That's one killed every 15 minutes. Unfortunately, the New York Times reported in August that extinction rate is now one every 14 minutes. We know there are people in America, including a few individuals in this room, that have a love affair with ivory. Some are even stockpiling raw ivory tusks out of Africa, banking on elephant
ivory is for sale, elephants will be needlessly, brutally, and selfishly killed. 100,000 elephants were poached in Africa between 2010 and 2012. Recent studies show that the majority of ivory in the U.S. marketplace is illegal. We know the ivory crisis is composed of poaching, trafficking, and buying. Small industries, small businesses should not decide the future, the fate of elephants on this planet. I urge you all, this distinguished body, not to compromise. JFK would have had the foresight, the vision, to move into the 21st century with wisdom and not be part of wiping out one of the largest land mammal on the planet. He said our problems are man-made, therefore they may be solved by man, and man can be as big as he wants. I urge you to be as big as the spirit of an elephant. We know that ivory is a conflict resource. Once smuggled into the United States, it's actually quite difficult to tell new ivory from antique ivory. The smugglers are actually quite good at turning a $19 billion profit. They know how to make the ivory look old. They stain it. And then they sell it on the marketplace under the guise of antique, bone, mammoth, jewelry, and bona fide antique. Here is what else we know. The ivory trade directly funds the terrorists, the Al-Qaeda affiliate Al-Shabaab, the Lord's Resistance Army, John Dewey, Boko Haram, destabilizing Africa and threatening America's security at home. These terrorists all have one thing in common, sir. They also kill people. We know that the federal government has taken action, which is not yet fully enforced or implemented, to reduce nearly all interstate trade, but it's up to us here to have bipartisan action to unequivocally ban ivory sales as we did in New Jersey. We showed in New Jersey that this is for the children, for future generations, the biodiversity of the earth. We can come together and ban ivory sales. It's the right thing to do. And I urge you to make this choice for future generations to end this nefarious trade in this great state, and we will be celebrated around the world.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to counter any of Robert Mitchell's comments that he said earlier. He did say a lot of statements that weren't true in terms of citing international trade what's allowed right now.
If you would, I think the thing to do would be to furnish committee with data from credible sources.
Sure, the White House.
The statements that you've made, if you feel it's possible.
Sure.
So that we crave truth here, and so we look to sources that have so we can deliver those predictions.
No, thank you so much. I'll definitely follow through with opportunity, because the truth is ivory is not art. That's, my mom always said a lie hides behind the truth. Ivory is not art. Art creates. It doesn't destroy the largest mammal on the planet. So we will send that information, and we will say U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. Senate, foreign body on foreign relations, Department of Interior, Department of Justice. They've all testified again and again since 2012, 2013. The ivory trade is directly linked to terrorists and looking at the species on the planet.
We need to focus the question as much as possible. I think we, as the chairman outlined previously, we get if there's poaching, we get if there's the species invasion. There was a little bit of difference in testimonies to how they're endangered, whether they're really endangered in different parts of Africa. To the extent you have data about that, that would be helpful.
We do. There's data in Central Africa right now. The elephants being wiped out in Mozambique.
Remember, so I'm asking data about different places. So this one has to come back.
Definitely.
And then we also get it clearly, there's no question about approaching the limit. There's no question. A lot of that's going to China. It sounds like if you think there's data that poached ivory is coming directly to the United States, we'd be very interested in hearing that.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife did testify in the New York State Assembly on January 16, 2013, on record that China consumes most of the ivory out of Africa, where mainland China does not consume. As you said, it does come to America, and the percentage is much higher than I heard say earlier. So
that's very
that's the traffic.
Potential point, two states that we get to America, and it's going to be documented that and understand that, how that looks like antiques and stuff like that.
And one other small piece of data is 1,000 rangers have been killed dying out. It is creating industry. There's ways this is a win-win, tax incentives. There's many ways so no one has to suffer any financial loss. But it's about stopping the glorification of ivory, and as Dan Ash said, who was the wildlife director, the reason the federal government is taking action is to help educate Americans that ivory has value on living elephants. And that's the heritage that the children deserve, a world where they still exist. And we'll provide you data, and thank you for requesting it.
That's the challenge you have as an advocate now, is to connect those two things in reality, which is a city, really, by passing this law, we build that. Also, we have to show that they brought that message. I understand the vote.
Thank you. We will provide that for you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm just going to let people know, you've been here very patiently, there's still a number of people who signed up. I'm going to ask you to try and condense your testimony if you can to a couple of minutes, as opposed to 3 minutes even. And again, we will be making any written testimony you want to offer, the opportunity to speak with legislators. But I'm just going to give you a sense of, again, even in a few minutes, and very much, we can try and go back and forth with testimony in the order we have it. We'll hear from Michael Kane, Laura Hagan, Brendan Van Forest, Cheryl Baker, Catherine Downey, Meredith Wagner, David Brown, Peter Holmes, that's probably going to take us maybe 45 minutes, honestly. After all 45 minutes to get through those, anything was involved, you want to get up, you want to take a walk, you want to take some air. Well, do that. You won't get to move the issue when you're not in the room, or either let you know, step out, or we'll get back to anybody who didn't call. Oh, no, we don't have to talk. We just keep going until the last person's testified, and, there are only 20 bills on this list. The Judiciary Committee and Madison's going to be putting 20 bills on. There's only 20 bills on this list. They're all equal rights bills. We're trying to move our bills. Try to be as reasonable as we can. We need to look at distances to come and testify when they come in here. They've got 3 minutes. There's a sigh, oh my God, but we're here for already 4 hours. Our hearings can go late. As I said earlier, if you go over, you're not really hurting us. You're here for the duration. We're hurting each other. So the more concise you can be, the better off we'll be. So I'll hear it. It looks like we've been here by late at night. So can I have Michael Kane, please? Oh, you're complaining that I'm doing the same thing I was accusing others of doing? Sorry about that. Thanks for the reminder.
Thank you for seeing me. My name is Michael Kane. I come from Nantucket. I am a basket maker and also an ivory cutter. I've been at this for 46 years. I've been in the ivory trade for a long time. I'm here to tell you I'm not a poacher. I'm not a terrorist. I take that a little appalling. One of the main things that a lot of people are missing here is this bill all makes it feel good. Nobody in this room wants to see one more elephant die. Myself included. Never have. I used to buy my ivory from Kruger National Park in South Africa. They cull their elephants because they have the healthiest bird in the world. They still do. And you know why they do? Because they kill poachers on sight. There's no trial. There's no nothing. Everything that you all doing here is not going to save one elephant. I don't care what not going to save one elephant. What you need is an international community. They need boots on the ground. They need people with guns walking with these elephants. That's how you can stop it. That's how South Africa has stopped it. Mozambique has just started. Now, South Africa has killed over 1,500 poachers. That's a pretty good number. They don't use tribes. So I guess I'm just here. I'm just a working schmuck. That's all I am. I work for a living. I've been doing it for 46 years. I've been accumulating ivory for the last 10 years legally. So I have ivory to get older because as much as I've always known, ivory was a commodity in the United States. It's a legal commodity in the United States. Always has been since the beginning of this country. And here we are. We're talking about something that I spent tens of thousands of dollars. And somebody's telling me it's going to be illegal to even sell it. I'd like to thank you all, but this bill should die in committee. That's what it should be. Because we already have a federal CITES 1989 federal law, which you were a little surprised at. I'm sure you didn't even hear about that. There's been a law since 1989, a federal law about no more import of ivory. Now, I've heard all the kids and a lot of the pundits here saying we shouldn't be importing ivory. Well, we haven't. We haven't since 1989. What part does anybody understand? Federal law. There's been no importation of ivory legally. Has there been illegal ivory? I've known 2, 3 people that have gone to jail. Nobody I've known, but I've read in the paper. So I think border control and immigration is doing their job. I don't know why we have to be on this I feel good kick, because we're not going to save any elephants. The only way to save these elephants is to have boots on the ground. It's going to take an international community. God knows this world wastes enough money. We all want to save the elephant. I particularly do because I love it. But I also use it as making my living. And what I used to do is cull elephants. You know, the culled elephants that died of old age from South Africa. That's where I used to buy my ivory. Then after that, I was buying from museums, family members, because after World War II, there was an influx of ivory from all the GIs coming back from the wars and stuff. That's where a lot of 90% of this ivory came in. And it's still a lot in this country. And all that ivory should be made, should be kept legally. It's a commodity. And to make this illegal, you people are opening a Pandora's box. Because if you, any of you, vote on this and do it, what's to stop you from doing other laws? We don't want, let's say we don't want any more greenhouse gases. So we're going to just get rid of cows. Does it sound ridiculous? You're damn right it doesn't. But you've opened the door. You've opened the door by taking something totally legal in this United States. And you made it illegal just because of a political whip. The only way you're going to stop this ivory is have boots on the ground, shoot the poachers on sight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keenan. Any questions? Hearing none, thank you. We have a panel with John Linehan, Kate, I'm sorry, I didn't the last name, Wednesday, is it? Iris Ho and Peter LaFontaine.
we want data for this committee. And so what I want to offer when I submit my written testimony are 2 reports that my organization put out. We partnered with defense analysts at a group called C4ADS, and they looked at open source data out of Africa with people on the ground to identify very specific links between the poaching ivory and terrorist networks, including high-profile militias such as John Dewey and the Lord's Resistance Army. So I won't go into details about that, but I will submit that report to the committee. We also did a follow-up report with these same analysts. We looked at the route that this ivory takes once it leaves the hands of poachers in Africa. These professional traffickers hijack the supply and logistics chains of major shipping companies and use their containers, the same routes that enable the trafficking of narcotics and weapons, to ship these wildlife products overseas at manageable cost to markets. This goes, as has been said, primarily to Asia, but also to the United States. So I will submit that report as well and hand it over to my colleague, Iris Ho. Thank you for your consideration.
Before you go first, let's take that entire answer. I didn't hear you say that the report suggests how much is coming from the United States, or whether, as the last speaker testified to, there's a redundancy to the fact that the federal government has acted on a national basis on this issue, and what the value are in terms of terrorist networks.
Well, to answer that in 2 parts, to look at what is coming into the United States, you can look at cannabis data from the Fish and Wildlife Service, which we have done for the United States, for Massachusetts rather, which I'll also be happy to submit to you in my written testimony. But we have seen that there have been dozens of seizures at ports here in Massachusetts of these wildlife products. And if you go by the rule of thumb that is used for narcotics, where every 1 seizure represents about 10 that are not caught, then we are seeing significant importation, illegal importation of wildlife products into Massachusetts and into the United States. So this is not an imaginary problem. This illegal trade really is happening right here in our country. And, sorry, can you repeat your second question?
Yeah, we will wrap up on the report anyway. The second question was relative to redundancy, the reality that there is federal law, and the fact that seizures are made. Why does Massachusetts have this thing?
Because federal law simply cannot regulate trade within the state, as you know. And so if we're going to address this problem, if we're going to truly shut down the market for these products, it can't just be between states. It can't just be at federal borders. It needs to be within the state as well. Because wherever there's demand, we're going to see product come to fill that demand. And that will include the smuggling into the country of these wildlife products.
Good afternoon, Chairman Fernandez and Chairman Brownsberger. My name is Iris Ho. I'm representing the Humane Society of the United States and also our global affiliate, Humane Society International. I think, I will maybe first address a few discussions that we had earlier. Even though the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in the past, they did say that U.S. did not contribute to the illegal ivory trade. But if we look at the most recent policy pronouncements by the service, and also including by President Obama, they have specifically remarked that the U.S. market is contributing, is threatening the elephants in Africa, and there is a substantial illegal ivory trade going into our market here. So that is, those are the statements specifically made by the service and also, by the administration. And we also talk about, opponents also talk about China is, where the problem is, and nobody's denying that. But when I met with the Chinese officials, they told me that, but Africa is where the problem is, because that's where the poaching is. And then when you talk to the African range states, they said, if there's no consumer demand, then there's no poaching. So we're really passing the buck here, and really, hands to me that if we do the same. For trade, continuing trade in ivory only perpetuates the ivory carvings have value, and it's a tradition. This is a myth that we have to throw out of the window. The page, talk about the federal authority versus state authority. The federal, we do have the Endangered Species Act, but the Endangered Species Act does not reach into in-state sales. And that's why states like New York, New Jersey, California, even Washington State, where they have a ballot measure up this November, are addressing the state issue. So finally, I guess I would just quickly say that, when I was in the heart of Congo, I saw poached tusk. I held it in my hands. Ivory belongs only to elephants, and not in, somebody's ivory collections or in somebody's jewelry box. What does it say about us if we choose, dead animal parts over the survival of one of the majestic animals? And, I think Massachusetts are at the crossroads today, and you do have a decision to make. Are we going to choose ivory, or are we going to choose elephants? This is a decision that is in, Chair Fernandez, you have alluded earlier, this is a decision that not only has regional, national, it's also, it's going to have international consequences as well.
Hello, my name is Peter LaFontaine. I'm a campaigns officer with the International Fund for Animal Welfare, and thanks to this panel for the chance to testify. I came in with a nice written speech, but most of it has been alluded to earlier. Things like the role of the United States in the ivory markets. My organization was actually responsible for the investigation that found Massachusetts to be fourth among 28 metro regions in the U.S. Craigslist sales. And really, I think what's gotten sort of elided in this conversation is the idea that it's not, nobody's trying to prove that every piece of ivory in an antique store window is illegal or that it's legal. It's really the fact that we don't know. We've had a system in this country where everything in this that is passed by our borders has been presumed to be legal. And there's no documentation required. The status quo in terms of our legal enforcement has sort of given the benefit of the doubt to sellers to say that this has always been in the country, it never came from a dead elephant. Unfortunately, as Kate and Iris mentioned earlier, we have done analyses of these databases from Fish and Wildlife Service and the U.S. Customs Bureau, and it found that there are thousands of pieces coming across our borders every year. Much of that is from the tourism industry, but there is also syndicated crime networks that are responsible, presumably, for some of that inflow. I would like to set the record straight. Nobody here is hopefully accusing the antiques industry in Massachusetts of collaborating with terrorists. That is as far from the truth as we can get. It's merely that when it's here, the presumption of legality really prevents our law enforcement system from operating in a way that protects elephants. And that has ramifications for African ecosystems, it has ramifications for how the rest of the world deals with it. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
When you came to the conclusion in the study that you were for, you mentioned Craigslist. That's a source of the analysis.
Yeah, so the report that a lot of people have referenced here was a study of Craigslist.org, which is a classified advertising site, and we did what's called a snapshot investigation. We looked at a week's worth of postings on the site for 28 metro regions. We looked at things like listing price, how many postings were listed, all sorts of factors. And we found that in terms of both the number of items posted and the overall list price, the value of the items, that Boston was just right behind New York City, San Francisco, Bay Area, Los Angeles as the number 4 region, metro region for ivory sales in the U.S.
Ivory sales. it's not a distinction between what may be legitimately here for 100 years or longer and what might be classified as an illegal piece of art.
That's true, and one of the things
Would it surprise you that those 4 cities would come out 1, 2, 3, 4?
No, it didn't surprise us. I mean, typically when you look at previous studies, there's a seminal study from Dan Stiles, who was referenced earlier. These cities tend to play out, big populations, the demographics, coastal, exactly. I want to address one earlier thing you pointed to, which is the documentation problem. We also looked at whether these wildlife products have any proof, any even offering of age, dating, provenance, anything like that. And I'm forgetting the exact stat, but it's very marginal in the single digits percentage of items posted had any sort of proof of provenance or age, which is troubling, but perhaps not surprising.
Should that be the standard?
We
What I can do to prove? I mean, if I say I saw you driving down the street at 100 miles an hour, and you say you weren't, I keep insisting you were breaking the law, would you eventually say to me under our system of government, prove it? Prove it to me that I was doing something wrong? Wouldn't that be the more likely standard we would want to apply as to whether I'm holding something that is legal or illegal, that it's not mine to prove?
It is a reasonable argument. Under the Endangered Species Act, the Fish and Wildlife Service actually, the burden of proof is on the seller of a product to prove that their product qualifies for exemption to the ESA. I mean, that's another thing that's sort of gotten lost in the conversation here is we are trying to, with both the federal law, well, actually, purely in reference to federal law, what we think needs to happen is that the law needs to be followed in the seller needs to show that they qualify. Not that the Fish and Wildlife Service needs to prove that they don't qualify. That's not how the ESA works.
So it's being sold on Craigslist in New York County, Massachusetts. Who tells me I have to prove to you that under federal law, what I'm selling you is not illegal?
Currently, no one. We're trying
You just said federal law requires it.
Federal law requires it. Unfortunately, Fish and Wildlife Service doesn't have the manpower, they don't have the funding for implementing.
Well, how would the proof be made? By what time
You could obviously require a CITES import permit, you could have, under what the federal government is proposing with their rule, you could have a qualified appraisal. There are various methods for documenting
What they're proposing, you said. So,
you
sorry, I just want to make sure. So let me just let's not answer the question. I'm sure I've asked it.
Yeah.
So if today I'm in Massachusetts and I'm selling on Craigslist to you in New York, if I want to transact that sale, you're saying under Massachusetts law today, I'm supposed to prove to someone that that is not illegally imported?
Under Massachusetts and federal law today, you are currently not obligated to provide any proof of provenance.
Okay, so I thought that's what you had said I was required to do.
No, we think that that's, so what the federal government is proposing to do with their change to the Endangered Species Act is to flip that back to the original intent.
The intent of the law, which would be different than my statement as to what we would expect to be under U.S. jurisprudence, which would be you're the accuser, you prove what is wrong. You're saying, wouldn't I expect that if you're going to shift that burden in some reasonable way for me to date what I own today in some fashion, you